Okay, everybody, we're just getting ready to start our second of the series of 3 Facebook Lives. So if you're getting signed in and ready to go, we're going to start here in just a couple of minutes. I'm Janie Lantz, and I am a freelance educator. I've worked with SVP worldwide many years, and my specialty is embroidery software. So if you didn't attend yesterday, you can go to the mySewnet North America page, and the recording from yesterday's Facebook Live on Draw and Paint is already posted and ready for you to watch. Today, we're going to, oops, hang on a second. We're going to, I've got my wrong lesson guide out here, I think. Okay, so I am ready now. So today what we're going to do is we're going to study the process of taking the artwork that we made and using ExpressDesign and turning it into stitches with the ExpressDesign. And I targeted ExpressDesign because there were some changes around the first of the year in the software and what's available in the subscription silver and gold. And so subscription silver and gold now have access to the Draw and Paint, and the silver level now has access to ExpressDesign. So today I want to show some of the features of ExpressDesign, how easy it is to make an embroidery, and then some other tips and hints as we go through the lesson today. Okay, so I think, and I also want to introduce Meredith. She's in the background today. She's doing technical things. She will be helping me with questions that get posted because I'm working from 2 screens. And once we flip over to the embroidery software, it's just easier if she feeds me questions and we can answer them then. So say hi to Meredith. And as always, we're going to remind you not to click on any links that pop up in the feed that are not from SVP Worldwide. Our company is never going to ask you for payment for anything. These Facebook Lives are free. And we don't want you to click a link and find out it's spam or something you shouldn't be in. Okay, so I think we're ready to begin. Before we start, I want to share a couple of little things. If you were here yesterday, I picked this up and showed it to you. And this is an embroidery done from a clip art that we redrew yesterday. So yesterday's video teaches you steps for how to take a paint image, which is done with pixels, splatters of color, if you will, and redraw it and turn it into a vector image, which is very clean and crisp. So when we take a paint image through ExpressDesign, and it's a messy image like this one does, you can really see how badly digitized this is. ExpressDesign didn't quite know where to put all the lines, where to put all the colors. But once you clean those images up, and that's what our process was yesterday, this is that same clip art, but it's done with a 0.5 millimeter line width and redrawn to have just main areas of interest. And this is the same one done with a 2.5 millimeter line around the outside of the artwork. And it gave me a little satin stitch border. So you can see that taking the time to prepare your artwork really does make a difference in the process with ExpressDesign. Okay, Meredith, I'm ready to switch over to the software window. Thank you, my dear. And I want to talk a little bit about how you open these programs. So Draw and Paint was new to both silver and gold in the subscription. And I believe those of you who purchased Boxed or Forever software, if you buy the upgrade, gold and silver also have Draw and Paint. And we added ExpressDesign to the silver. So those changes mean you can get to things in the silver and gold levels that you couldn't before. And Draw and Paint is one of those things that if you have the desktop shortcut and you open it, you'll see these inside the folder, and there is a tools folder. And inside this tools folder, that is where there is a shortcut to Draw and Paint, and that will open the Draw and Paint program directly. And I didn't talk about that yesterday, so I wanted to kind of touch on it today. I've made a shortcut to that. In Windows, you just right click and tell it to pin to taskbar. In Windows 11, it's under Show More Options and Pin to Taskbar. Mine says unpin because it's already in the taskbar. And in Mac software, it's just going to be in Launchpad, and you can put it on your dock so that you have a shortcut to it as well. So I kind of wanted to show you that quickly. Also, when we get into start going through ExpressDesign Wizard, or it's an assistant in Mac, so I just call it ExpressDesign. When we start going through ExpressDesign, you're going to see that you can get into Draw and Paint from there as well. So subscription people, it just happened automatically. If you own the Forever software or the box software, I believe you have to purchase the upgrade if you're silver or gold to be able to launch Draw and Paint, and for silver, the ExpressDesign Wizard. Okay, and if you have questions, please leave them, type them in, and Meredith will let me know if we have questions about things. So first thing, when I open mySewnet Embroidery, and this is the embroidery application part of our software, in the embroidery window, it opens to this welcome page. And in the welcome page, you can go back to File, which is in the upper left-hand corner. And that will take you to where you can go to the Create tab. And the Create tab is where ExpressDesign lives. And ExpressDesign has two functions. It goes into the hoop or into a rectangle. But if I go back to this File tab for a minute, you also have a shortcut to ExpressDesign from there. And Meredith and I were just talking about this a minute ago. There's no one right or wrong way to do anything. I always like to tell people, learn as many different ways to approach a technique or to build your skill as you can find, and then use the ones that are comfortable for you. So you can open it from this shortcut to ExpressDesign, or you can do what I always do and go to the File page and open ExpressDesign from there. And I'm actually going to go back here and do blank canvas, because when you select blank canvas, that gives you the opportunity to set up a hoop. So I'm going to use a 260 by 200 hoop in a natural orientation. Whatever you pick there would be what you wanted to work with for your particular project. And orientation just sets rectangular hoops. Natural is vertical, like you would clip them on the embroidery arm. And rotated turns it horizontally, so you can work designs that are wider than they all are tall. So those are all just kind of basic things. Most of you who've worked with the software quite a bit already know all this. I know some of you attending today are probably digitizers, have Platinum, and use the digitizing software, but I still want to throw out some extra hints and tips for when you want to do something with ExpressDesign and tell you why it can be a valuable tool to use. So I'm just going to set up my hoop for natural in that 260 by 200. And then I'm ready to go to the Create tab, which is where ExpressDesign lives. Now, if you have silver or gold, you're going to see that you do not have some of these other features and functions, because silver and gold only activate certain parts of the software. But silver and gold people now do have, or silver people do have, the ExpressDesign. So this will be something new for you guys. I'm going to click the ExpressDesign shortcut or button, and it will tell me I can ExpressDesign two different ways. I can ExpressDesign into hoop or into a rectangle. And also, I want to point out that when you use ExpressDesign, you are actually digitizing something, excuse me, with a wizard or with a quick assistant, and it is going to end up with an embroidery file that is an EDO file type. It's called a design object, in the embroidery module, but it actually is a digitizing type file. And if you have the Platinum software, you can link from that to digitizing and make all kinds of changes. So as we go through this little Facebook Live lesson, so to speak, I will show you how you can do some of these techniques. And then if you have the Platinum software, how you can go in and do some editing from there as well. So I'm going to choose to just ExpressDesign into Hoop. And we have choices: create Express Embroidery, create Express Trace, create Express Border. Embroidery makes stitches, fills and border stitches. It'll make running stitches from graphics that have very skinny lines around the outside, like outlines. It'll do a trace, which is what you would use maybe to make red work or a quilting design, and we'll do a border. And that is what you would use if you wanted to do a very simple applique. And I will kind of run through those other two, the trace and the border, after we talk about Express Embroidery. But I want to show you some cool things that happen. So I'm going to use Create Express Embroidery. And then when I click Next, this is something that's really cool. I can load a picture, or I can paste in a picture if I've got one on the internal clipboard from Draw and Paint. I've never used that, but that's what it's supposed to do. You can scan something directly to the software or bring it directly from a camera. But once again, I have found it easier to just take a photograph or scan something, save it, and then use Load a Picture to bring it in. But you also have Create New Picture. And you should have it in silver, gold, and platinum if your subscription or if you've upgraded your basic software. And Create New Picture is a link. You notice how it popped up, and then it took me to Draw and Paint. So I literally could redraw a picture here, and I could then save it as a backup. And when I close my Draw and Paint, it's going to take me back to the ExpressDesign wizard with the image loaded. So that is a fast way to get into the Draw and Paint program if you're working on a project on the fly and you need to edit your picture or make a new picture. So you can either get it into it from the Desktop Tools folder, or you can get into it from Create New Picture. So what type of images will ExpressDesign recognize? So ExpressDesign can see vector graphics, and the two that we work with most commonly are the ECQ that we made yesterday, which is a vector graphic that is native to and exclusive to the mySewnet software. And it can use, or to the Draw and Paint software, I guess I should say. And we can also use SVG file types, but they need to be SVGs that don't have other information saved into them. And SVGs are kind of a complicated little bug. You can get SVGs that have Word documents in it, or text documents in them, or paint images buried in with them, and those tend to either not open or not work very well in the ExpressDesign. So there's a whole world there around what kind of SVG. But just know that if you make the SVG like we did yesterday, from Draw and Paint, save as or export as picture, and you choose to uncheck the Save Paint Image, you're going to be okay. Those SVGs will work really well. On the other side of the spectrum, your ExpressDesign wizard can recognize bitmaps, and that's what this is a bitmap image. JPEGs, something called Pattern CAD, which I've never seen and haven't used. PNG file types, which is a high quality raster or paint style graphic. TIF files, Windows meta files, and EMF files, which are enhanced meta files, and Windows icon files. So it will see and recognize and open all of those file types to run through the wizard. But what you're going to find is, I'm going to select this bitmap to start off to show you what happens. If you choose a paint type image, and we call those raster images, and the thing to know about them is that this is made up of little dots. Vector graphics are made up of lines with areas of fill. They're very crisp. They resize any size you want. You can skew them around. They keep that crisp quality because they're always recalculating from the lines and the fills defined by points. So it's kind of like a digitized file, only it's digitized for artwork. When you work with any kind of a paint type image and you bring that in, you can see if I kind of, I guess I don't have zoom tools in this load window, but you can see that this kind of looks grainy and pixelated. And that's because if I made this bigger or smaller, and our ExpressDesign does make the image bigger or smaller if you choose a different embroidery size than what the actual picture started out of. If you had a 3-inch picture and you chose to make your embroidery 6 inches tall, it's actually going to enlarge that picture and it's going to lose quality. It's going to get even grainier at the edges and it's going to have a lot of scattered lines. So if you remember when I showed you my stitch out of the bitmap image, it had stray lines, it had weird colors, it had half a dozen different colors at the end that just threw themselves in there because it was working from a pixelated image. So that type of artwork is not the optimum artwork to use. So I'm going to go ahead here and take this through the wizard. It does find the edges of the artwork. If it's taking too much background around the edge, you can click automatic and then you preview it here. And as you work your way through this, you can fit the design to the hoop or you can enter a specific design size. So in ExpressDesign, even though you told it to fill the hoop when you first started out the ExpressDesign, you have a second chance here to enter a design size and tell it either width or height that you want that design to be. I'm just going to do fit to hoop for demo purposes. And then as I work my way through this, my artwork primarily has a body, a left and right hand, an eye with an eyeball. But I am getting 13 shades of color. And that is like, there's some things in there that I don't think I see. A dark green, a brown. So when I go next, and the other thing I wanted to make sure to tell you is if I select these picture options, I'm going to every time tell it I want my black lines to have no change. Otherwise, if lines are thick and thin, it will tend to expand them. And if they're really thick, it will tend to reduce them with these other two settings. So everything I run through here, I'm going to choose black lines, no change, and leave area sensitivity at medium. And then when I click next again, it's going to process and it gives me a little flag and says some areas of this graphic, because it is so pixelated, are too thick to be traced. No big deal. But now when you look at this, it is set right now to be more fill in all the areas. I'm going to drag it over a little bit more towards satin because I'd like to force this border to be satin stitches and refresh the preview. And it's going to retrace it. And you'll see that that did make them a little smoother, but there's still lots of little scrappy areas in here. It's just not pretty. And it pretty much stitches out just like what you see there. So I think ExpressDesign sometimes has gotten a bad rap because people think they cannot make a good embroidery design with ExpressDesign. If you know the right way to prepare your pictures, then you can get really good quality embroideries. Now this came in with green corner handles. That means it's file type. If I cursor over this film strip on the left is a design object. And this actually is able to be edited in the digitizing software. So if you have the Platinum software, all you have to do is right click and edit in digitizing, and you can start cleaning it up. But honestly, this would be so much work to clean up. It would be easier to just bring the image in as a background and start from square one. So I am going to go back to my File tab and tell it I want to open a new window. And we're going to look at how much difference there is in these different graphics types. So it takes a second or two for my new window to open. And I'm going to go to blank canvas and make sure my hoop is set up the way I want it. And then go to the Create tab. And remember, you can use that shortcut from the welcome screen if you like. I'm going to use ExpressDesign into Hoop, just like I did before. Create an Express Embroidery. But this time, when I load the picture, I am going to use an image that was drawn in Drawn Paint. So this is one of the images that I showed you how to draw yesterday, and it is an ECQ, which is a vector graphic that is the default file type in Drawn Paint. And when I select this with the skinny lines, it's got 0.5 millimeter, half a millimeter wide lines. And I run this through the ExpressDesign wizard. I'm going to use automatic to crop down so I can fill the hoop if I so choose. I'm going to fit the design to the hoop. Now I'm only getting the colors that were in that vector graphic. So I have a white for the eyeball. I have a yellow for his inner ear. I have green for the left hand, hot pink for the right hand, orange for the body, and black for the outlines. And that's just where I want to be. So I'm going to go back to picture options and tell it, I don't want to change the line width. I want it to be whatever it came in with in my graphic, because that way, if I have a graphic with skinny outlines like this, I'm going to get running stitches. If I have a graphic with wider outlines, which we'll do in a minute, I'm going to get satin stitches. So we're going to go next. And again, it said it couldn't trace some things, no big deal. I really want all of this to stay more fill stitches because my black outlines are so skinny. They're going to come out running stitches. So I can click finish. And now you can see much, much improved quality of embroidery. So I've just opened up Live View here and I'll open it out and I'll zoom in and show you how you can use that Live View to look at your stitches. And tilt them so you can see the reflection of the light and move around the area. And much, much, much improved quality of stitches. Now let's go back and look at another new window. And this time I want to run through a piece of artwork. So I'm going to do blank canvas. Sorry, I'm thinking ahead here.
Hey, Janie.
And, yes.
Just a couple questions. There was somebody that missed a little bit of the first part. What source type was that first image that you used when you brought it in?
It was a bitmap that was from my many years, very extensive collection of artwork that just probably from an old drawing program I had. So it is a bitmap image.
Okay. And then go ahead.
And the second one is an ECQ, which is a vector graphic that is native to Drawn Paint and also works in the ExpressDesign and in digitizing.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Are you also able to import an image or drawing and maintain its size so that it doesn't resize according to the hoop selected?
No, the ExpressDesign has always been, it scales the image according to what size it is originally and what size you tell the stitches to be. So if they wanted the image to be the same size as their stitch out, then open it in Drawn Paint, size it there in the Draw tab, resave it, at that size. And then when you run it through ExpressDesign, let's say you make the image 6 inches tall, you run it through ExpressDesign, and you tell the embroidery to be 6 inches tall, it won't be scaling that image.
Sounds good. Thank you. Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Good questions, whoever asked those. Okay, so now I have a couple of other things here that I wanted to show you. So I'm going to go back to the Create tab and ExpressDesign into Hoop, and I'm going to do another Express Embroidery. And then when I click Next and go to Load a Picture, I'm going to show you how the ECQ one with the wider lines, because I made this a 2 or a 2.5 millimeter, I can't remember exactly which, line width. When I drew it up in Drawn Paint, it makes a bolder outline. And as you run this through ExpressDesign, you're going to see that it tends to pick that up, and it's still just the 5 colors, because think of this image as being cut out of fabric. And the paint image is like you took a can of paint and splattered that paint. These are sections of solid, clear color, whereas the bitmap image I used first had spray painted sections of color all over it and little bitty dots. So it makes the software have to work a lot harder to calculate the stitches, and it can't produce as good a quality of an embroidery. So now if I drag this over towards satin more and refresh my preview, you can see I'm getting nice satin stitches around the outside of him. And then I have my fills on the inside. Now I did make this area a satin stitch. If you didn't want it a satin stitch, you could play with that setting. And when I resume it, you can see it resumes the picture when I refresh it. But you kind of play with the slider and go back and forth until you get this to be a pattern fill, but the black lines into an outline. It is not sophisticated, but it is what you have in silver and gold. And this gives you some tools so that you can actually produce some pretty nice embroideries if you start by doing the groundwork in Drawn Paint. So definitely worth the time it takes to go into Drawn Paint. Okay, so we're going to go back to File, a new window again. And I'm leaving these tabs open. I hope I don't crash us out because of bandwidth here. If I do, we'll go back and close some of them down. But I want to go back to some of the others and refer to them a little bit. So this time, when I go ExpressDesign into Hoop and create Express Embroidery, something that I noticed kind of as an idiosyncrasy is when I made an image in Drawn Paint and I saved it as a PNG or a JPEG, which are other, okay, let me back that up. When I made my image in Drawn Paint and I used the export picture setting, instead of just saving it as an SVG or using the ECQ vector graphics, I exported them as paint style graphics, raster graphics, and that is PNG, JPEG. And when I took them and converted them, something in that conversion from a vector graphic back to a paint style graphic throws in stray colors. And so what you'll see happening is when you run this through and you get up to the step where it shows you the colors, you would think looking at this, it should only have 5 colors, but because it is a paint image and it still has some of that shading in there, it throws in a lot of extra stuff that we don't want. Sometimes I see browns in here. Sometimes I see dark greens. It's just kind of funky. And when you run this through and you set your, I'm going to make this more satin stitch at the edges. When you run this through, you can see that the quality of these stitches is nowhere near as good as what we got when we used the ECQ or the SVG, because vector graphics are lines and fill areas, and they produce clean edges. So even though this is 100% better than the bitmap, because I cleaned it up and exported it as a new JPEG, it is still not the quality that I got with that vector graphic image. And it threw in all these extra colors. So when you go to stitch this out, it's going to pop up and ask you for a thread change. And it's going to do probably colors 6 through 12 might be 15 stitches. They might be 25 stitches, but they're going to be just little stray bits and pieces where it saw the pixelations as separate areas in the embroidery. So this is why I feel it is so valuable when you're working with ExpressDesign to have really good quality artwork. And now that you can use Draw and Paint in your subscription version or your upgraded version at any level, you can really start building some designs that are great quality. Okay.
Hey, Janie.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you able to merge the colors?
Yes and no. So I'm going to Control Shift because this came out just a tiny bit large. Green corner handles mean it is a working file type. That means if you have platinum, you can right click and edit and digitizing. I'm going to show you that here in just a little bit. I wanted to really hit this hard on the end for people who have silver and gold, because gold users have been able to use ExpressDesign for a long time. It's new to silver users. So I think that's pretty exciting. To merge them, you have to go to the Modify tab. And once you do that, it's going to fix your design as stitches. So I would, before I started playing with merging these colors, do a save as and save this as my default design if I wanted to be able to open it and use it again. Once you go to Modify and you say OK to merging it, you now can't select it anymore. In this window, all you can do is select parts of the stitches. So it's not, it's kind of like a miniature stitch editor program. And you can select these and merge them together so that they would stitch all together, but that's not going to solve the problem of part of that black still being lots of little stray stitches. So even though you might merge these, you're still, oh, doesn't like that. There we go. You're still going to have the inherent problems that are in it. You just reduced them all to one color change. So I hope that makes sense. Now, one of the things that's really great about our software is also notice the corner handles went from green to white. This is a fixed design. So if I wanted to change this now, if I wanted to make major size changes to this, I would have to use the resize and it would not be as accurate. So we lose that benefit that we get from ExpressDesign of having it be a digitizing file. Now, one of the tools I use a lot is we have multiple levels of undo. So I can undo that and take it back until it is my original file. And for those of you who have platinum, I'm going to open up this little guy. And I'm going to show you that you can right click over this and use edit in digitizing. And this is the platinum version only. This is the full package. And when you go to edit and digitizing, now you have a film strip that shows each separate design object or piece in this embroidery. Now, one of the things that I think is kind of signature to using ExpressDesign, if you will, is that it does a really great job when you have nice, crisp artwork of producing the pattern fill areas. But I kind of have mixed feelings about how it does the outlines. So these outlines right now they're done at the end, which is good, but they are little bits and pieces that that travel around the edge, they're not a nice solid piece. And I don't know if you noticed it when I held up those samples I had stitched out. They were really pretty good, but they were not up to my standards because there was still a gap here and there because these pieces are added at the end and they are not fitted always quite as close as they would be if they were part of the object itself. So what I can do is I can come in here and I can, well, actually, I'm going to select this piece and this piece and all of these in the film strip. And I'm going to delete them and show you a little trick you can use if you're working with ExpressDesign. And I discovered this some time ago, and I do this a lot now. If I have something that's simple like this, it's faster for me to run it through ExpressDesign and then bring it in here and start changing it up. So I do a lot of that. So I've selected all of the, whoops, I missed a few, didn't I? Glad you noticed that, Meredith. So I can select these pieces and I can delete them. And that leaves me with just this artwork, or excuse me, pattern fill areas. I've got yesterday's Facebook mixed up with today's Facebook. And I can start going through here and selecting these in the film strip. I may have to go here and then come back here. Sometimes when you delete things, you have to change a tab. It's sort of like seizes up the tools. Okay, there, I got him. So I am going to select this orange and I'm going to right click over it and bring up the fill area and line settings box, and my pattern fill is there, but it says no border line. I can make that a satin line now and set the width exactly where I want it to be. And I should have told it. I'm going to right click and do properties, go back to the line, and I can make that, let's make it a 4mm line. And I also want my line to be a separate color change, and we're going to make it black. So now I have defined the outlines around the edge of that as perfect satin stitches. And that pattern fill area now shows a little color strip down here that's telling me that those are all one piece, and I'm going to get an even higher quality stitch out than I would have if I'd left that black color change with all of those separate little pieces of running stitch and satin stitch and triple stitch and whatever else it decided to make. So when you open things up in for edit and digitizing, you are linked, and every change you make here happens simultaneously in this window. So they're live. What happens in the digitizing software happens at the same time in the embroidery window, which is pretty cool, I think. And you can go through, you could select pattern fill, and you could right click over it and go to global properties, and every pattern fill that's in there, you could change it to your satin line at the same time. And I'm going to make it a, I'm going to make those a 4.5. I think my original design probably had, whoops, not 45, probably had about a 4.5 millimeter, and we're going to make them all black, but you could make them individual colors. There's so much flexibility in what you can do when you go into the digitizing software from edit. And then I think I deleted his eyeball. My bad. So what I would want to do is start editing and adding pieces back in again. And I'm not going to do anything really fancy with this. I just kind of wanted to show you that there is so much fun stuff that you can do when you start editing. So pattern fills, you have all of these different specialty fill types, so you can change them back and forth. You could do a quilt stipple fill in a section. That's kind of fun. And I do a lot of times, if I want to make something applique, I will select an object and I will copy it. That puts it on the clipboard. You can see the clipboard in Windows. You can't see it in Mac. And then I will paste it. And that puts it right after the one I copied and in the same place. Then I'm going to go back to that first one and I'm going to turn it back into the pattern fill by right-clicking and choosing properties. And we'll make this, actually, yeah, we'll make this a pattern fill because I don't want to show you too many things in one particular design. And then I'm going to right-click over that pattern fill and add a color change and make that stippling over the top really pop out. And now I've got something very unique and cool. So once you start with the Platinum software with ExpressDesign to make your initial design, then when you edit in digitizing, the sky is really the limit for what you can do. Let's see. I also wanted to show you guys, a couple more things here. I'm kind of all over the map here today, but a couple more things here. When you've made all your changes and you are linked from Embroidery, it's always going to say edit from Embroidery at the top of the digitizing page in the Platinum software. So when you close the digitizing window, it is going to take you back to Embroidery. It closes the link, but you see your updated Embroidery design here. And always, always, always make sure you do a save as and save this, because that retains the design object properties. So you could open this back up in Embroidery again and make changes to it. If you have gone to edit in digitizing, you can also save this as an EDO file. So you can use save as, and it's going to be the EDO file type, and then you can open it the next time, the EDO version, directly in the digitizing software as well. So that's another nice benefit. Okay. Any other comments or questions yet?
Nothing else so far right now.
Okay. A lot of this, I would guess a lot of the people that are on here today are pretty familiar with a lot of this information, but hopefully we have some new people that have silver and gold that will enjoy some of the changes that we're able to do now that they have drawn paint. Okay, so I'm going to go back here to the second guy I made. And he was made from a vector graphic, which happened to be an ECQ graphic. And if I right click and edit in digitizing, we've already looked at being able to change the outlines and make outlines individual around each piece. I've shown you a little bit about how you can copy and paste and then edit. What I think I want to do now is I want to take his body and turn that into an applique. So I am going to go to properties, and I'm going to right click over this and go to the properties for just this piece. So when you select a pattern fill, if you choose properties, it only changes the selected pattern fill frame. If I chose global properties, it would change all the global properties frames. I want to make just his body an applique for right now, so I'm going to choose just properties. And we have an applique tab. And all you have to do is tell it you want it to be a standard applique, or a pre-cut piece or a pre-placed piece or a cutout, and you can make your applique automatically. Standard applique is the kind of applique where you stitch a marker stitch and you slap fabric down on the hoop and it tacks it down and then you trim it by hand. But the pre-cut piece is one that's really great because if you design a pre-cut piece, you can cut that fabric out on your cutter. So some of you have mementos now. You can create an SVG file. I'm going to make a satin line around this that's 4 millimeters and has black lines so that my applique piece will have a nice wide satin border to cover up all those edges. So I have a problem though, Houston. I'm still seeing pattern fill. Now my film strip says it's pattern fill plus applique, but if I right click on that object again, and I can do it here because it's selected, or I can do it over in the film strip. But if I right click and choose the properties again, I did make this applique and it has applique fabric and I've made it pre-cut piece so I can take it to my cutter, but I forgot I don't want pattern fill over the top. So it's as simple as opening those properties up and making it no fill. And then I'm going to go to the applique tab and select a fabric. And maybe I would like to use one of the fabrics that are saved in the software just so I can see how using a print would look, because he can really be a funny guy if I do that. And then when I click OK, now I see this as applique fabric in my preview with the satin around the outline. And we've just converted in the Platinum software that basic piece that we ran through the ExpressDesign wizard into applique for the body. So there's just tons and tons and tons of things that we can do when we have the Platinum software. Now I do want to show you a couple more things. So I'm going to go back here to File and New Window, because I talked about the ExpressDesign. I'm just going to open ExpressDesign directly this time. My hoop is oriented okay. I'm going to show you how Express Trace looks. So if I do an Express Trace from that original bitmap image that I had, so I'm going to get up here, and this is that, it's like a paint picture, right? It's pixelated. If I drew a trace, and trace would be what I'd use if I wanted to make red work or I wanted to make a quilting design for my hoop. And I select next and find outline, and it can only find the outlines down to a certain point because this is full of pixels instead of lines and fills. So that's probably as good as it's going to get. And then I can use this to try and help filter it down to some outlines, which is, not too bad, but maybe not great either. And I go next again and fit design to hoop and next again. And this is what I'm going to get. Now it's not bad, but it could be a lot better. You can see that the edges are not real clean and smooth. It's kind of jaggedy. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this. And then I'm going to go back and make another one using that vector graphic to just show you once again how much difference in quality there is in the image itself if we use a really high quality image. Use this one with the skinny outlines. And I'm going to filter that down a little bit until I see those lines are not doubling up. And now I'm keeping the smoothness of that artwork when I traced it. So even in the Express Trace, a vector graphic, an ECQ or a well-prepared SVG are always going to give you a better result in the ExpressDesign than you would get if you used a paint type image. And one more quick takes a little bit for that to load, so thank you for being patient. The Express border, and if you have had, say, the Silver software and you've never used this, what Express border does is it finds the outer edge. So I'm going to go ahead and use my vector graphic on this. So a lot of times people think, oh, Express border, I can make an applique, and you can, but they expect it to make applique around each separate piece, and that's not how this tool works. So when you do an Express border for a multicolor piece of artwork like this, even if it is a nice, clean vector graphic, it is going to, I need to do automatic here. It is going to make the border all the way around the outside edge. So even though it looks like I can really clean this up and fit to hoop, when it comes up and says, how do you want to make this applique? It's only going to use the very outermost outline on that artwork. So you can make an applique, but it's a very simple applique. And it's not at all the same kind of thing as what I just did with the platinum, where I took my ExpressDesign in and then changed it piece by piece so I could have a multi-part applique embroidery.
Hey, Jeannie, we have a couple questions about what file formats. The first one is, if you have a drawing as a PDF, would you have to save it as a JPEG first?
PDFs are kind of quizzical. Our software does not open them directly. So you could try to convert it to a JPEG and then bring it in and draw over it. Or you could take a picture of it with your phone if you had it printed out, and then use that as a background, because that is a paint image that our Draw in Paint will recognize.
Okay. And I'm not sure if they mistyped, but maybe you know. It says, can you use a CorelDRAW vector image file by changing it to an SVG? I don't know what a CorelDRAW vector, but maybe you do.
If it's in the CorelDRAW format and you open it up in CorelDRAW, I believe you can have an option to export as picture, or it may not be called that, but that's what it does, just like I did in Draw in Paint. And then I would export it as an SVG, and it asks what type of SVG you want to export it in. And you want it in the most basic one that doesn't contain any other information.
Okay. And then they're moving up on me. Sorry.
That's okay.
Can you load an SVG file directly into the Express borders?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you can. You can load ECQs, and in anything ExpressDesign can read. Let me get another new window here. I know this probably seems pretty repetitive to those people who already know a lot about digitizing, but like I said, this is really meant to be geared toward those people that are getting this new to work with, plus showing you guys that you can do a lot by using ExpressDesign. So for Express border, you can use any of those file types. So it'll see ECQ and SVG. It'll see the, these are PNG and JPEG file types. Here's an SVG. So it will even see the bitmap. It's just that the other file types are the SVG and ECQ are much cleaner. Let's see, and keeps popping into my head. There was something else I wanted to show you guys. So it will see those just fine. Oh, I know what I wanted to tell you guys. So when I'm working with load a picture, a lot of times I'll go load a picture and I'll browse around and I'll find something that I like, but it's not as clean as I want it to be. That's when I use the create new picture, and I use my Draw in Paint and do what we did yesterday. I'll go and insert the picture I found with insert file, And then I go to the draw tab and I draw over it and I save that. And then you want to make sure you delete what's in the paint tab because you don't want that paint image in the background if you're going to work with a vector graphic. And then when you close Draw and Paint, it's going to bring the image back with you. So it's there and ready to use in ExpressDesign. So I'll just use Insert to show you from the design gallery. And these I think are, yeah, these are ECQ files. So this will work perfect. So I opened one up and I closed it, and I'm going to Control Shift on the keyboard and adjust the size of that guy. And now when you're working from a link, and right now I am linked from the ExpressDesign wizard in Embroidery to Draw and Paint, do not change the canvas size because that is tied to the hoop size and it can cause issues like software crashing or the design coming out all funky. So that is an important tip to know. I think if you link from Draw and Paint in the ExpressDesign wizard, leave the canvas size what it is because it matches what your hoop size is. And then when I bring this in and size it, and it's in the Draw tab, which I can see it is, it's not in the Paint tab, I can then just close Draw and Paint and voila, there it is. And I'm ready to go right on through my ExpressDesign. Any more questions?
Yes, a few more came through. So if I do Draw and Paint picture, it's a solid area, but if I want to do a dog that looks like it has fur, is that possible?
So trying to duplicate fur can be tricky. Does this person have the Platinum software?
They have not said. I'll wait for them to answer that.
So if they have the Platinum software, it's easier to do. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish this. Whoops. I'm going to finish him out, but I'm going to do him as an Express Embroidery. So I have fill in all the, oops.
She said no, that she does not.
Okay. So what I would say to you is that ExpressDesign is always going to use the flattest fill type, which is a fill number 3. So without going to Platinum, probably what you can get is very nice quality basic embroideries, but trying to duplicate the fur on a dog would not be an optimum tool. I believe Gold has photo stitch, doesn't it? I'd have to go back and look for sure.
I have to go back to and look.
Yeah. I think Gold has the photo stitch, and I would recommend photo stitch for trying to duplicate that furry look on animals or feathers on birds, that type of thing. But there are some tricks and things about playing with it as well. And starting out with an image that has the colors reduced in Draw and Paint will help that process too.
Could you use the French foot for the fur on the dog? That was a suggestion. I feel like somebody.
Yeah, you could do your basic embroidery, and then you could go back and do some decorative stitches with it.
Yes,
definitely.
Somebody else asked, will you be reviewing how to import a drawing from a photograph and how to digitize?
Probably not, because that would be a manually digitized.
That's a whole bigger picture. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, or photo stitch. Again, photo stitch does. And actually, if you have Platinum, I've done some really great portraits using cross stitcher and a really tiny cross stitch.
Very cool. Somebody else asked, could you show an embossing?
Embossing. Are they talking about the lockdown stitches?
I think so. And we've already, I don't know that that pertains necessarily to this. And we've done a live specifically on the new knockdown stitches. So if you want to check that one out, when did I do that one? Not too long ago. I think it was the end of last year when it came out.
It should be on that mySewnet North America page.
Yes, you'll be able to find that in yes, I did that on November 11th, and you can find it back in our video section on Facebook or directly on YouTube as well.
Yep. So any other questions?
Can you emboss the lines to enhance the bat wings?
You pretty much to do any add-ons so that it would embroider them in the hoop, you're going to need to have either Stitch Editor or you're going to need to be able to edit in digitizing. And both of those are features of the Platinum software. So if you want to move into those more sophisticated techniques, then Platinum is going to be the level that you would want to have.
Sounds good. I think that's it so far.
Okay. All right. Well, we're right straight up at 3 o'clock. So if we don't have any more questions, I will check the Facebook page over the next couple of days. And if you guys think of something else, I do want to remind you that the recording from yesterday over using the Draw and Paint program is up there. And it has a lot of really valuable information for designing your own. So please go visit that. You can watch it over and over and over again. And then if you would like to join us tomorrow, I am going to show you the Embellish tab and how we can make our own ribbon, yarn, and string of beads designs, the tools, the editing, some of the properties, and some basics when you're designing and working with those. So with that, I will turn it back over to you, Meredith, and I want to thank you all for being here and join us again tomorrow, if you would.
Sounds good. Somebody did ask really quick, the knockdown stitches,
Yes.
that does not cost extra, correct? It's an add-on. It was like it was a download, wasn't it? I know. Me too. That's what I'm sitting here thinking. I think it was.
I do not know for sure. So what I would say to you is they haven't given us a technical sheet yet for all of these different, which is in what package, and we're trying to get that all pinned down. But what I would say to you is the knockdown stitches are in the frame tab. I do not know if they are in silver or gold or not, but you can open your version of the software up, go to the frame tab, and they're not called knockdown, they're called hold down stitches.
Yeah, hold down.
Knockdown is somebody else's brand, but they're hold down stitches and they come in as shapes. And if you put those around a design, they will lock down pile and loops and stuff like that. And I know Meredith did a really good Facebook Live on those. So that would be the way to tell if you have them. I believe those are in all the subscription ones, but I can't be sure.
I think it was an upgrade. I think it's in all of them.
Okay, but probably in the boxed, I would guess they have to purchase that boxed upgrade to get them.
It looks
or
like,
maybe not. I don't know for sure.
I don't know for sure, but some people are saying it was an upgrade for the box. So I didn't think it was a purchase thing. I thought it was one of the updates that they got with the box. So I think it's there.
Okay, so across the board, everybody would have it, but that would be the way to check. And it really does work very nicely. And I will tell you, if you have Platinum software, once you get that hold down shape, you can right click on it and you can go to edit and digitizing and you can adjust it so it exactly matches the shaping of your design. So it's really cool to do some of that advanced stuff.
Yes. Somebody asked, can you do the hold down around an object? Yes. So you would take in whatever it was you created into that, and you could easily do that. It would be, it wouldn't be the shape of your outline. It would be more like, I don't want to say a square or a circle or just a more basic shape or a frame. It wouldn't be directly around it in that way, I think is what they're thinking. So,
but it does allow you, if you have Platinum and you can go to edit and digitizing, you can go to edit and digitizing and it will open that shape up and you can play with it.
And you can play with it. Yeah. That's a whole nother live we could do. That's a whole nother day, Janie.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We maybe could do that as a Facebook Live right now.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Sounds good. Thank you all.
Yep. Bye-bye.